sharing is healing for yourself, and you don't realize how much other people you're helping. And the reward is when someone says, "I listened to your message today, and because of you, I'm still sober." Those are the
Yeah.
messages I like to hear. That's the rewarding part about it, because
Yeah.
a lot of these kids don't have trust right now. Their
Yeah.
trust issues are like this. That's the first thing you got to do with a youth is you got to get their trust for them to
Yeah.
open up about. They don't trust anybody because a lot of bad things happen to them.
Another episode of the Speak Real podcast, sharing one-on-one conversations. We believe that storytelling is the best way to empower youth and give them the platform to find their voices.
Presented by YouthSpeak. Youth experience, youth voice, youth empowered.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our YouthSpeak podcast, brought to you by the TD Group. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast. Our special guest today, Joey. I met Joey I want to say a month ago now, in Saskatchewan at a conference about mental health for the Indigenous communities. And so Joey's here to share a little bit about his life story, what he does, how he's a motivational speaker, and how he inspires the Indigenous community. Can you share a little bit about your background as a motivational speaker, and including what inspired you to kind of become one?
What inspired me to become a motivational speaker? It was I was actually in jail for doing some, bad choices that I'd made in life. And there was a motivational speaker in jail that really inspired me. Well, he really showed me the awareness and the dead end road that this life could take you if you keep doing it.
Mhm.
He had been in jail, and he was a professional football player too, and he really opened my eyes up to if he can do this, I can do this kind of thing. And another one that inspired me too is Jordan Tutu, reading his book in jail.
Mhm.
Theron Fleury, I got a hold of Theron Fleury's book in jail too. Those stories like that really inspired me to change my life around. And I've when I was honestly, when I was in jail, I read a lot of books on people that overcame addictions with, their spirituality, and I found a lot of it was, finding spirituality in jail. Either it was God, Creator, or whoever is, whatever spiritual path you're on. But I find that spirituality is a big game changer, and
Yeah.
that's what helped me, succeed to where I am today.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, how old were you when you met that speaker in jail?
I was 37 years old.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, I think it's also something incredible because you had that epiphany to change your life, right? Even at a later stage in your life. I think a lot of us are kind of stuck in the decisions of like, oh, I haven't made it this far yet or anything, or, it's too late to change my life around. But you were able to kind of see that moment and say, okay, I'm going to change my life. I can do that. I can inspire others, which is wonderful. I want to ask you, what community did you grow up in? And, we kind of touched on this at the beginning, and how did it shape your experience as a youth?
Well, I grew up in my own community till I was 5 years old at Takakoop. It was a reservation. And I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember the good times and the trauma times, and that's with my parents. But when we moved to the city of Prince Albert, shortly after that, my parents split up. Addictions was involved. Um, you know, one parent left, the other parent left, and I was abandoned. And, I'm lucky my grandparents are in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. That's where they lived, and I grew up there ever since I was 16 years old. And that what that city, that community has done for me is I don't want to play victim, but
Hmm.
I've went through a lot of racism in that town.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of, but not everybody was racist, but I had my fair share of racism where it affected me as a child growing up. It left me this wounded little child inside because I was already wounded. My parents were gone. My mom was in and out of jail. My dad would briefly come and see me, but only when he was intoxicated. And yeah, like left me really, really wounded as a child growing up. And even when I was when I was living in the city, I'd go visit my relatives in the reserve. They would be racist towards me too, saying I was a little white boy, go back to the city. Stuff like that really
Yeah.
did me and gave me a lot of anger inside, and a lot of how do you call that? Not loving yourself.
Mm.
My self worth was just like this. I because I didn't know where I belonged
Yeah.
as a kid growing up.
Did you have siblings growing up?
I had one sister, 10 years older than her. My mom had met this guy, and um, my mom was always living at my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
Was in and out of jail. And she had my sister, and if it wasn't for my grandparents, my sister would have been in a foster care too. So
Yeah.
I grew up with my sister ever since I was I left the house when I was 16 years old. But I remember my sister too. Uh, the hurt that she had when my mom would make those broken promises to her
Yeah.
that she did to me. And I have other siblings too with my dad's side. My brother Dusty, my brother Clinton, my sister Lindsay, my brother Jordy, and I just lost a sister recently to
Oh,
fentanyl not long ago. My dad's oldest brother, sorry, she had a
wow.
fentanyl overdose, and this was not long ago.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you were talking about of, that self-love, and kind of getting to that low point in life. How does community play in all of that? And, like you even coming back from the city to visit, your family and stuff in that community. What does that mean to you when we talk about community now?
Community is everything. What I get when I go speak in these communities, a lot of people are not whole. A lot of them, I find a lot of people are, when you don't agree with somebody's decision, then they talk about them. They cause friction, they cause this toxic environment for our youth. And, I wish and I pray that our leaders would work more as a whole where okay, let's fix this drug issue, let's fix this alcohol issue, let's fix this
Yeah.
dysfunction, not dysfunction, but this colonization issue, let's fix
Hmm.
these people. Let's not have our own opinions and then base it around that. Why can't we work as a whole, as a community, and help out our people that are struggling? But a community is so important. To have a healthy community, you have to have healthy leaders, dude.
How do you teach that now, when you're going into these remote communities and sharing your story?
Well, I try say when I start speaking, I tell them I'm not trying to tell you guys how to live your lives. I'm just sharing my story. But recently I've been kind of doing sharing circles when I have smaller groups of kids. This last one I was just at in Saddle Lake, I had a group of 4 or 5 boys, and they kind of opened up about what they were going through in their lives, and one of them was struggling with cocaine and alcohol, and
Yeah.
he come to my session twice because I really caught his eye. I really inspired him to, and he opened up to me, and
Yeah.
some stuff like that makes me know that I'm doing my job. And even when we were in
Yeah.
Wallace, I had one young kid come up to me, and he was I triggered him in a good way,
Mm.
but because he can relate to what I've been through, because he's going through the same thing too, and that's the point of why I go out and share my story. And with these communities, I try to tell them that we need healthy leaders. It's in a town where you don't have chief and council, it's mayors or whatever. Or if it's but I majority 95% of my communities I go to are Aboriginal. So to me, and I know a lot of people don't like hearing this. A lot of leaders is you got to be sober and clean for your people to be a healthy community.
Yeah. How do you find that, like, helping those kids, like even the ones that you're talking about and stuff, how has that improved your own life? And like sharing your story, how has that improved your own life?
it makes me feel like I'm I'm it just touches my heart in so many ways because
Yeah.
I get a lot of messages on Facebook. I get a lot of messages from people that know me and people that read my TikTok and whatever, and they so much I want to help them because they're hurting so much with
Yeah.
addiction. But there's so much I can say and do. You got to help yourself if you want
Mhm.
to change. And I know a lot of people are stuck in that cycle where they don't know how to reach out for help. They're not there yet.
Yeah.
And before it's too late, a lot of people got to suck their pride aside. They got to really stand up and know that they have a problem, and don't be shy or don't be scared to admit that you have a problem and get help.
Yeah, no, no, no. You just gave me goosebumps when you were just talking about that, about, wanting to help so many people, but, sometimes not even being able to help as many as you can sometimes, right? But I think even at YouthSpeak, we just share that idea of like that one singular voice can change the trajectory of someone's life,
Yeah,
right? Like I remember hearing your story, in Saskatchewan, and I was just impressed and also mesmerized and just taken back by like the amount of struggle that you had gone through from childhood to where you're at right now in your life, and all those small changes that you had to make over time, and like just like you said, it's just stepping up to the plate and saying, okay, I need to make a change in my life, and how is that going to be done, and like seeking help when it's possible.
yes,
Um, no, that was wonderful. Yeah. And I think if we have more leaders like you in our communities, especially in the Aboriginal communities and Indigenous communities, around Canada and everywhere else, even within our local downtown communities and stuff, these are the people that we need, right? To inspire others, to say, hey, you can get out of that hole. You're not stuck forever.
yeah.
So thank you. Yeah. I kind of want to shift
Last thing
on.
I want to
Yeah.
say is
Yeah.
about that leadership. I'm not talking bad about leaders or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's just my point of view of what
Yeah.
I see in all these communities I go to. And
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of communities all over, Saskatchewan. I'm beginning to go to Alberta
Yeah.
and I'm Ontario,
Yeah.
and what I see is that a true leadership's got to be there for their people and their elders and
Mhm.
their youth, not for themselves.
Yeah, that is, I think it's such a big one. And I think even just speaking from lived experience is so important. Because you can have a leader, but if they don't have that lived experience, they won't be able to relate to the people that they are serving.
Yeah.
Right? And they're trying to help out. I do want to shift into another question that I have for you, which was, what is
Yeah.
the biggest challenge that you faced in your life?
The biggest challenge I faced in my life is when I was at my lowest.
Yeah.
Um, that that's the challenge that made me change my life around. I was suicidal and I was, wanted on Prince Albert's Most Wanted. I was wanted from the cops. I did some pretty bad things on the street, and I was totally defeated. I was at that point where I wanted to take my own life, and I know God, Creator, gave me another chance because I thought about this for the last for the next 6 months. I still think about it.
Hmm.
What if I would have did that? What if I would have took the easy way out? I
Yeah.
wouldn't be here right now. I would have just caused more heartache and pain towards my family and people that actually love me. But that's why I got into spirituality, is because I believe that there was another path for me to go, and I overcame a lot of my you know struggles I had going on in my life. And if it had wouldn't been for me getting locked up, I don't know where I'd be today. Jail actually saved my life.
Yeah, it's a interesting line. You rarely hear that, like that jail has saved my life. Um, and I know you talked about how it affected your mental health and how you had suicidal thoughts and everything. And I don't know if it's safe to say, but is that stuff that you still even deal with to this day? Any
um
of those thoughts?
no, I don't have those thoughts to this day,
Okay,
no,
that's
because my
great.
mind is clean, it's
Yeah,
healthy. And it was just because I was in that that spot, and it was
Yeah.
because I was on that heavy drug.
So how did you, I don't shouldn't say how do you cope now, but like how did you cope with your mental health then? I know you said you kind of turned to spirituality, but like if there's a child who is in your position, right? Who's doing drugs, being a part of the wrong circles, maybe in and out of jail, has that bad family life, like how do you cope with your mental health if you're in that state?
Don't be afraid to share with anyone you can trust.
Hmm.
Be open with them. Hear, listen, share. Sharing is such a big part of healing for me.
Yeah,
If I wouldn't have known how to open up to somebody I could trust about my issues that are going on in my head, then I don't think I'd be here right now.
yeah,
Um, Being open and being truthful, and you know, like I said, sucking up my pride. And if you're going through a grieving stage, don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to grieve. Grieving is a really it's really bad issue too, that a lot of people turn to addiction. When they're grieving, they turn to the bottle or the drug, and they're
yeah.
numb to pain. And I think it's easy for me to say it now because I'm sober 6.5 years, but
Congrats.
I would recommend anyone that's grieving, to find a counselor, to find somebody that they can trust, that they can talk to when they're feeling down and out, because that's one of the things that helped me lots, is opening up to somebody about what's going on in my life,
Hmm.
and what's going on in here.
Yep.
It's no good to sit in here by yourself, because it's a pretty bad place.
How did you find that right person? Like, because there's a lot of people that come into your life, right? That you're like, can I trust them? And you're sharing your deep emotional thoughts with them. How do you find that right person?
So if you're living on a reserve, my suggestion is go to um, the health clinic, ask for a counselor, or
Mm,
talk to an elder in your community that's
yeah,
on that right path. And if you're in the city, go talk to a pastor, or go talk to someone that you can trust.
yeah,
Someone that doesn't have to be a pastor, doesn't have to be an elder, but anyone that's on the right path and that's healthy in their mind, that what you say to them will stay safe there, because
yeah,
a lot of these kids don't have trust right now. Their
yeah,
trust issues are like this. That's the first thing you got to do with a youth, is you got to get their trust for them to
yeah,
open up about. They don't trust anybody because a lot of bad things happen to them.
yeah. And I kind of want to ask you, it's for those kids that you're talking to and everything, and you're talking about trust and how it's at its all-time low. What kind of advice do you give them in terms of how to maybe build that trust again, or even finding the right person to trust again?
What is my advice do I have to give to
Yeah,
them?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um like I said, reach out, talk to an elder, you know uh talk to anyone that you can trust. And um for me in jail, it was an elder I first reached out to, and
Oh,
he knew right away that I was going through things. He could tell that I wanted to change, so
mhm.
he went above and beyond to go and visit me when I needed to visit him. And when I got out of jail, I reached out to another elder, and I reached out to my church. I went to AA, NA. I went to every little possible thing that I could do
Yeah,
to rebuild myself and keep busy every day. I had to stay busy every day because I was out. I was out of jail and I was free.
yeah,
And one thing I had to do is I had to let go of my old friends that I was making bad decisions with.
yeah. I think that's
That's
a big one,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's just letting go of the people that you were so comfortable with for so long,
Yes,
right?
getting out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
learning to be alone is a part of healing too.
Was it tough, though, learning to be alone part? Like,
Yes, it was. I was alone for probably 2 years with no relationship, no nothing,
wow.
like girl relationship or anything.
Yeah,
I just worked on myself and got a really strong routine going, and you know, uh, I really found out who I really was and what I really wanted in life, and I didn't want to be an alcoholic or a drug addict
Yeah.
anymore.
What made you develop that mindset of, I want to make sure to carry on to the next day? Like, I just need to get to the next day. Well, like, what pushed
Well,
you?
when I had bad days, I really knew it was just a today thing. I
Yeah.
knew tomorrow would be another day. I just had to get through that day. I would stop and I would pray, or I would try start my day, reset, refocus. When I'd have bad days. But yeah, it's a struggle when you're first in recovery. When you're when you're your first 2-3 months in your recovery, it's a struggle to make it through one day.
Yeah.
That's what they say: one day at a time,
Yeah.
1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I only have a few more questions for you as we kind of wrap up our wonderful podcast here. If you were younger and watching this, what message would you want to leave for you?
Do what makes you happy.
Hmm.
Don't follow others, and don't, if you're uncomfortable of doing what you're doing, you don't have to do it. We all have choices in life. Life is all about choices. And honestly, the choices I made in life, I'm surprised that I'm still alive today. And that's one message I want to give out to a lot of these youth is there's consequences you got to face when you get involved in drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And, it's a hard lifestyle to get out of. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to this day that I'm succeeding.
Yeah. And the second last question, actually, I should say is, do you have any tips for youth who want to be a motivational speaker just like you one day?
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Because trust me, you get shy at first, but speak from the heart.
Mm.
Don't write anything down. And just yeah, just it's learning. Sharing is healing for yourself, and you don't realize how much other people you're helping. And the reward is when someone says, "I listened to your message today, and because of you, I'm still sober." Those are the
Yeah.
messages I like to hear. That's the rewarding part about it.
Yeah. No, I love that line. Sharing is healing.
Yeah.
Okay. The last question that I have for you, Joey, is where can our audience connect with you? Where can we find you?
Facebook, well, my website is joeygenereaux.com.
Mhm.
I got can she just add, or my cell number is 960-1989, 1306-960-1989. My email address is joeykyle gens@gmail.com. joeykylejens@gmail.com.
Gotcha. And are you on TikTok or on
Yes.
Instagram that we can find you at?
Hold on.
Yeah.
My Facebook is Joe K JKG.
Mhm.
My email is joeygenereaux.com. My Lincoln app is Joey General. That's more or
Okay.
less else. And then my email is joeykylejens@gmail.com. My cell number is 1306-960-1989. And my TikTok is Joey Jens
Perfect.
/ Jojo Jens 87.
Joey J.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. We'll make sure to include those in the show notes and everything, and in all of our posts. But thank you so much, Joey, for taking the time out and coming to sit with us and talking to us about, your life and all the challenges that you faced and sharing your wisdom with us. Is there any other final message you want to leave with our audience?
Just, take it one day at a time when you're on a recovery path, and don't be hard on yourself, and, learn to love yourself. In order to love yourself, you're not going to love the people around you. So, that's all I got to share. Thanks.
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth-led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca, where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
YouthSpeak charity. Speak, inspire, change.